Hey everybody, welcome back to day 5 of the 7-day series teaching you how to go from a New Haven character all the way to having a walled settlement. And would you look at that? We have a walled settlement. Oh, winter is finally over. Oh man. You can see on the left side of the screen, I made it a little bit easier for you to see, but if you're a phone user, I'm sure you can't read any of this. That I did quite a bit between episodes. Like I said, I took everything that was important from the cave and I brought it over here, which I think only took one trip with the cart. That wasn't so bad. And either in that, I prepped a bunch of stuff that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be walking around and showing you the new stuff and teaching you how everything works, as well as giving you our homework of what our tasks are for the day. So first of all, I carried stuff from the cave to the settlement. Duh. I use the cart for that. You know, you lift command things and you put them on the cart, carried everything else that I could in my inventory, and left a little bit behind because I just didn't need it. We waited a few days for winter to end. I think it's been like 3 days in real life, because I needed winter to end because I want to teach you how to do some farming today, and that just is not gonna happen in the middle of winter. I bumped my masonry up to 20, and I dug for a whole lot of clay, just in the local shoreline. It's sea clay, that's why it's this beautiful blue all over the place. If I'd used ball clay from rivers and freshwater lakes, then I think they would have been kind of like a gray, something like that. I bumped my... I'm sorry, I spelled that wrong. Apparently I bummed up to 10 farming. I'm great at this. I bumped up to 10 farming. That was so that when I would pick wild crops, they would be at base quality rather than quality 1. So I replaced my old 1 quality gourds and whatever that were sitting around with quality 10, because it's what I could get. Next, I set up the locks. Now, this is something I actually need to show you here, because this is important. You take the locks and bolts skill, I want to say it's called. If we scroll down to known skills, locks and bolts, which is 1,500. I took that skill, and that gives you under crafting, lock and key. You can see here, what I did was I made a wooden lock, which is made out of 1 wood block, and then you put it on a gate, so you right-click it onto the gate to install it. That automatically produces a master key for you, which looks like a boss key from an old video game. And it's probably supposed to be modeled after Zelda, isn't it? It's totally modeled after Zelda, because the small key definitely is. Anyway, you make the master key by just installing the lock. It gives you the master key. And from the master key, you can make slave keys. Now, these are very, very important. If I open my inventory here, you can see that I'm carrying 1 slave key. A slave key is a key that can open your door, but only from the inside. So I can open from the inside, I can walk out, I can close it, but now I'm locked out. I can't walk back in. How do I get back in? I press my teleport to Hearthfire button. All right, now why would that be very important? Because this guarantees that if I'm walking out in a field and someone beats me up and robs me, that whatever key they steal from me is useless. I can teleport home when I get back up. They can't open my doors from the outside with that key, so that key doesn't mean anything. The master key you keep specifically, I have one right in here. Nope, wait, nope, there it is. Yep, master key. That's the master key for the gates. This master key I still have, so I can pick it up at any time with a wood block and craft another slave key. So I can make copies of this, as many as I need. I can make 1 for every person in the village, and or the settlement. Now, you shouldn't keep your master key in a crate like this. By the time this video airs, I'm already going to have this key somewhere else, but you shouldn't keep it in the game world like this. It's just not safe. If someone were to breach your village by whatever means, they run out, or they run in while you're walking out or something, or the walls decay because you haven't been playing for a while and you come back to it, something like that. If they get a hold of your master key, then they can come and go as they please. They can make as many copies of that as they want. They could change your locks, too. So, really, what you should do with the master key, once you've locked your gates, make a wilderness beacon, and teleport in an alt. Just make another character and teleport them in to your village or your settlement or whatever. Have them pick up the key and then have them log out. They're called a key alt. Everybody uses them. It's so that your key is not even in the game world. Even in the event of a full wall breach where people get in here and they rummage through everything and you're just picking up the scraps of what's left over, you still have your master key and you can get the gates closed and repaired and all of that, and then they can't just waltz in. The other thing I need to teach you about keys and locks is that you can have multiple locks work with the same key. If I go ahead and I click, okay, I don't even need to make the lock. If I just hover over it, it says it in the bottom right, which is probably illegible for most of you who aren't watching this on like a TV. But if you want multiple doors to be working off the same lock, which in this case you definitely do, you want both of these doors on the same lock, you make 2 locks. And after you've installed one and it gave you the master key for that lock, you use the master key on the other lock in your inventory. And that'll make it so that lock also works with the same set of keys. So that's how I have these 2 doors both working on the same keys. Next, for things I did between episodes, if we zoom in here, ooh, look at all this swag I'm wearing. Oh, what is that? Well, you can see I have my bat cape on. I told you about that in an earlier episode. Very simple. It's strings, it's bat wings, and it's some hide, bat hide specifically. To make a bat cape, it's a very basic armor. You can gild things to it if you want to get some stats out of it. And it also gives you a side effect of bats don't aggro on you. So you can be as reckless as you want fighting bats. They'll still fight you when you start attacking them, of course. But only the one bat that you're fighting. The other ones won't aggro when they see you. So very useful for cave exploration or walking around at night, or just a easy to make cheap armor in general to keep you a little bit safer in early game easy fights. We also have the poor man's gloves, you can see. I guess I'm wearing my rings outside the gloves. That's crazy looking. So anything that you interact with that normally hurts you, like a crab caress, where you go to pick up a crab and it pinches you, or a stinging nettle, where it stings you, obviously. Things like that don't affect you as much. I do believe you can still get hurt by some of these, but it's much less frequent, and it only costs a little bit of leather and I think a little bit of hide. But as you can see here, leather, string, hide. That makes you all these things, including the poor man's belt. You can see we don't have a reed weave belt anymore. We have a leather belt. You can see up here in our little belt menu, we have 3 slots now instead of just 1. So I've got a bunch of tools on there. I've got a fishing pole. I've got a bone saw. I've got a water skin with some water. It was just one of my hip water skins because I have a creel on right now for my fishing supplies. But I don't really need to be fishing right now, so I could replace that if I really wanted to. Not a big deal, though. Also, you can't really see it because I have a cape on, but I'm wearing a leather backpack, which is why my inventory is so large right now. If we look at this, we have 32 slots grand total. Now, if I didn't have the Wanderer's Bindle, that would be 28, but that's still a lot. This is a big upgrade from the Birch Bark backpack. So if you're at that part of the game now where you can afford to be using more leather and more hide, these are the kinds of upgrades you should probably be doing. The belt, the gloves, the bat cape, and the backpack. These are all very low cost on leather and hide. You can make them in the early-ish game. You definitely want to make sure that you always have enough leather for the wall first, because the wall is so important. But these are the next best things that are going to really, really help you, especially in the early game. That leather backpack, I can't state enough how important inventory space is in this game. So upgrading to a leather backpack really does make a big deal in how much you get on every foraging trip. Next, I rebuilt the kiln, the cauldron, and I didn't rebuild the tar kiln. I meant to there, but that's clay, stone, and wood. You saw in the previous episodes how to make those. We actually have better quality ones now because I bumped up my my masonry to 20 and dug for clay, like I said earlier. If we do A then S, we can see this is a 20 quality kiln rather than the old 1 quality. All these urns and everything, I believe, are 20 quality, although I don't think quality exists for urns. No, it doesn't. We'll go over that in a second, though, because I also built a potter's wheel. Check out how this looks. A potter's wheel is a little workstation you can sit on to make a better quality pottery. Potter's wheel is just made of wood, stone, clay, and one rope. So it's not that hard to make, although you do need 10 string ready to go for the rope, and you do need your rope walk already made. But you can make pottery without this, but if you make pottery with this, then it improves the quality, it uses less energy, it gets made faster. If you're doing any kind of serious bulk pottery stuff, then you should probably be using a potter's wheel. And this is going to be very important for when you're making tree pots. This is going to be really important when you're making tree pots because you want to start a tree farm at some point to get really good quality wood. You know, wood is used in so many things and is used as fuel for so many things. Great quality wood is going to be important in the long run if you want a long-running, strong base where you're climbing through quality a lot. You can see I made urns all over the base. They're mostly this kind of like vertical urn. You can see it holds a lot of items for a container that you can have outdoors. Yes, you heard outdoors. We're going to be indoors before the end of this episode because today we are going to be making a house later. You could have made one before you even had walls, to be honest. You could even made one in your cave if you really wanted to, but there's not really a reason. We'll make a nice home here. Lastly, I got sewing, plant lore, and first aid and made a tansy cure. I probably put some text on screen in a previous episode where I had deepworm on how I actually ended up fixing it because my guess was wrong. But if we go to medicine here, and we go to... This is alphabetical, isn't it? Tansy extract. This is 2 tansy and 10 salt water, and you need to have a clay jar on you to put it into. You craft it at a boiling cauldron. Now, tansy is a pretty common herb you find in, I think it's both grasslands and forests. It's for sure in grasslands, though. I usually find it there. And a little bit of salt water. So you can get that from the sea. You're going to have to take a trip to the sea for this. Deepworm you get mostly because you got bit by stuff like midges. Midgets and sand fleas and whatever, and it lowers the amount of food event points you get out of eating food because it's like tapeworm, you know, it's gross. What you have to do is drink 1 or 2 doses of this tansy extract, and thankfully you get, I think it's 3 doses every time you make it. And it has multiple uses. You should have some tansy extract in your base ready to go in case someone does get deepworm, because deepworm really sucks. Deepworm doesn't really hurt you, but anything that lowers the value of the food you're eating is really painful. This game is all about the quality climb of getting your stats up, getting your attributes up, and having your food mean less is a pretty big deal. So having tansy extract in the base, probably a good idea. And if you have an excessive amount and you just want midges to stay away, you can also rub it on your skin rather than drinking it, and that will keep midges away from you for quite a while. I believe it's a more concentrated version of the effect you get when you just pick up tansy. When you just pick up tansy, then midges stay away for a little bit. All right, with that done, we can cut down on this box so much. Look at that. Oh, so much more room to work with. Let's lower that. Beautiful. All right, now it's time for today's tasks. This is relevant to all of you. All those things that I showed you that I did around the base, you probably should do them, but you don't have to. This is the stuff for today, and thankfully we already went over some of this. You want to bump your masonry to a minimum of 10, because that's the baseline quality of all wild clay. All wild anything isn't going to be lower than 10. So bumping up to 10 and that is good. If you can afford more, maybe you want to do more, because ceramic knives, which you make out of flint, are best cutting tool in the game, pretty much. Knives in general are very, very important for not only very early game melee combat, but especially for butchering animals so that you don't degrade the quality too much. I actually made a ceramic knife here that's called the 18.6. It's the best I could do. It's a 20 quality masonry, clay, and kiln, but the quality of the knife was brought down a little bit by the quality of the wood that I used as the fuel in the furnace. You also want to bump your farming up to a minimum of 10 so that the stuff you collect is a little bit better. You want to make your tar pit if you don't already have a tar pit still. I know I showed you guys how to make a tar pit on an earlier episode already, but I'm assuming we've all moved to our settlement here. I don't have a tar pit here yet. I should probably make a little bit of room for that. You should go ahead and make a tar kiln, especially if you're not very close to the cave that you were previously in. I'm pretty close to mine, so I could go back to it if I really needed to. But I'll figure out a spot for it later. You can see this layout here, by the way. I don't think I've really gone over it because it was winter at the time, so it was a little hard to see everything. But you can see the way Sally's designed this. We have these nice walkways and everything that goes out to the farming zone here. But also, we have 5 little zones here. 2 small ones, 2 big ones, and then 1 extra small one. What are these for? Well, you can use them for anything. You can see that I kind of have them zoned off into different, like, professions, basically. But really, the purpose is you could fit timber houses in these corner ones perfectly. So if you don't need a station there, you could put a house there. And later, when you can make nicer, bigger stone houses, they'd fit perfectly in these bigger slots here. And of course, you could move things around as need be. It might get a little bit cramped if you want to put all 4 buildings in, but it would work. And this black stone area here will have its own walled off area, where in the center, it's a mine hole. But that's for another episode. That is well beyond what we can do right now. We need to get farming before we can get wax, and we need wax if we want hardened leather. We need hardened leather if we want a mine hole. Anyway, yeah, so make your tar pit. You should make your cauldron because you're going to be using it today for making some soap, actually. You're also going to need a kiln. You use a kiln for making the ash. It's the best source of getting ash is by burning wood in the oven. Next is a tree planter's pot. Go get the skill plant lore, and we're going to craft pottery. And we're going to go to tree planter's pot. You can see all the pottery stuff is in here. Even stuff like urns where you'd think it's build menu because it's like a object you put in the world. But no, it's crafting because you have to be able to put it into the kiln and then take it out. So we're going to open this up. It says it takes 10 clay. So we're going to grab 10 clay over here. Is that the 20 quality? Yes, it is. 20 quality. We're going to use the potter's wheel. You don't have to, but I will because I have one, and they're not hard to make with the stuff you already have access to, and boom. We have our first one very, very easily. We're going to... Oh, yeah. I still have a bunch of stuff in here. Okay. We'll fire that in a minute. We'll get that firing in a minute. I guess I can skip ahead to teaching you another thing that's useful for later in the episode. We want to make a bar of soap. If I go to my wounds here, I've got an infected sore. You get infected sores. It happens. It sucks. Everybody gets them sometimes. I'm actually looking for my bar of soap right now so I can re-lather that. I lathered it last night and it looks like it needs another soaping up. But as you can see, I have really not organized this base at all. There it is. You can also study bars of soap, but right now I need it for scrubbing. There we go. You're going to get infected sores. Look, it happens. Sometimes your sores just get infected. You don't get them healed fast enough and something happens. You can also get infected sores really easy if you have open cuts and you walk through a swamp. That's pretty much instant infected sores as far as I'm aware. So be careful of that. Look, it's going to happen to you. You're going to get infected sores sometimes. Usually you want to get like leeches to get rid of blunt trauma, but if you don't already have the leeches ahead of time, then your sore is probably going to get infected doing that. So you want to make soap. How do you make soap? Okay, you need a few things. You need limestone. I don't need to show you how to get limestone, thankfully. Limestone is not hard to get. Limestone is very hard to get if you're just looking for a block of limestone out in the world. That is agonizing. I tried that for a while and I did not luck out. None spawned near me, but stalagmites in every single cave you go in, if you mine them, you get limestone. At least that's what my village told me, and as far as I can tell, that's true, because I went to several different caves, and all the stalagmites gave me lots of limestone. You only need 2 limestone for a bar of soap, and a bar of soap has 3 uses, so don't feel like you need to get ridiculous amounts. You'll be fine with just a little bit of limestone. You also need to get lye. How do you get lye? Well, first of all, you put blocks or boards of wood in a kiln. The blocks give you more ash, but they take longer to cook. If you're going to be babysitting it, it's faster to use boards. If you're not going to be babysitting it, it's faster to use blocks. Anyway, you get all this ash, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up all the ash. Now, this is not an efficient way of doing it. It's all 20 kilogram bits, right? Now you can pick them up, you can right click them on each other to stack them together up to 1 kilogram, and you should do that, but there's a faster way. If you have a barrel where you keep ashes, like I do, you just hold shift and you keep right-clicking until all your ash is in there, and then you just take the ash back out, and it'll already be in 1 kilogram chunks. Then you boil your cauldron. Let me just put this ash back, actually, because I don't need it, because I prepared this ahead of time. If you check your cauldron and you boil your ash for a little under 3 hours, I believe it is, it'll turn into lye. Now, 1 kilogram of ash only gives you 1/10 of a kilogram of lye, so you don't get a ton. But if we stack it all up here, we get a bunch of lye. Now, for a bar of soaps are weird. They're a curiosity under luxuries. Weird, right? You think it'd be under medicine or something. You need lye, but it says 5. Like, you need 5 kilograms of lye, which would be 50 kilograms of ash. That's nuts. You know what else is nuts? Tell me a lie. It doesn't actually take 5 kilograms. It takes, like, 0.5. It's ridiculous. So it takes a lot less than it looks. Then you use your 2 limestone, and you need 3 rendered animal fat. Now, animal fat is when you take 3 cuts of animal fat and you boil it here with the render fat processing option to render animal fat. Now, if you don't have animal fat because you haven't been able to hunt animals big enough that have fat, like boars and stuff, I think badgers have fat as well, I could be wrong, then what you need to do is craft processing materials, cooking ingredients, fat cuts. 3 of any raw meat will give you an animal fat or a fat cut. 3 animal fat will get you rendered animal fat. Oof. So you need, what is that, 27 raw meat to get 1 bar of soap worth, or 3 bar of soap worth. A bar of soap with 3 uses. That's a better way to put it. It takes you 27 pieces of raw meat to do that. Or it's much cheaper if you already have fat cuts because you're hunting bigger things. So hopefully you're not going to need a whole lot of soap early, and then you make that at the cauldron, and there you go. You get your bar of soap. I highly recommend you make bars of soap. Okay, I'm going to put all that stuff away so that we can go back to firing this unfired tree planter's pot. You know what? Let's run. Because we're on paved stone. Takes like nothing. Also, my throat's giving out on me. Sorry if I sound very hoarse. We're going to take all these sea bricks that I made earlier. All it takes to make bricks, by the way, is putting raw clay in an oven and firing it. Or a kiln, rather, and firing it. You're going to use this for making things like ovens and crucibles and whatever. And a crucible is the thing that we're going to be using this for, actually. I think I want to put it like right here-ish. So I got to move this coal. Sorry, things are not super organized right now. In fact, let me just put the bricks over here. Cool. That'll do for now. I like how the stockpile, by the way, is always red, even if the bricks are blue. Okay, let's clean up our list. All right, there we go. I cleaned that up. Now let's put our pot in here. And another thing you should do. Let's grab 2 pieces of clay. I'll show you how to do this, even though I already have one. You want to go to your crafting menu, you want to go to equipment, and you want to go to weapons. There's a ceramic knife you can make. You can use any kind of clay for this. Its quality is soft capped by your survival and your intelligence. So hopefully things that you've been investing pretty heavily in. But obviously it's hard capped by the quality of the clay. So it doesn't matter if our soft cap is 34.6. The clay is only quality 20, so it's going to be quality 20. And you can just do this by hand. It doesn't matter. You don't need a potter's wheel. And you make a unfired ceramic knife. You pop that in a kiln. You fuel that thing up, which it has no fuel right now. So we're going to put like 10 logs of wood in there, maybe. Put that in. Oh, no, it's already all fueled up. Cool. Doesn't even take 10. Cool. And we are going to light this thing up. I don't think the knife takes very long. I think the tree potter's plant might take a little while, but the tree potter's plant is very simple. You just take a piece of soil that you dig up just from the ground. You dig command on the soil somewhere. You take some water. You put them in the pot together with a seed, and then you can go put it on an herbalist table, and the herbalist table will allow you to sprout the thing. Now, we can't do that yet. We can make the pot for it now, But we don't have an herbalist staple. We get that as we start farming, so we're gonna get there soonish. Still, you should have one of these tree planters pots made ahead of time. There's really no reason not to. Next is poor man's gloves, leather backpack, belt, and you should make a cloak if you have a lot of hides. Well, you know what? I do have a few hides here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of my hides off the rack. There we go. And I have some hides over here as well. I think those are all bat hides, but I don't need another cape right now. That's fine. And we're going to go ahead and go into our clothes and equipment and go to capes, cloaks, and robes. Now, we already have a cape on, but we have 3 different robes we could wear. A fur cloak, a hide cloak, and a leather coat. Let's bump all of them up to here so they're a little bit easier for you to see. Fur cloak is 10 of any prepared hide and 4 string. You know what? I still need that little menu. I just realized there's stuff on there that doesn't show. You can see in the bottom right, I don't know why it doesn't show it up here when I hover over, but that's the game being the game. It shows you the gilding chance and what skills it's related to. So the fur cloak is related to survival and exploration. The hide cloak is just survival, but it's cheaper to make. And the leather coat is agility and sewing. So that is more for if you're going to be working around the base, I guess. Or it could also be good for combat, because agility gildings are pretty sweet for combat. I think I'm going to do the fur cloak. That's usually what I do at this point in the game. I'm also going to need 4 string, but I have a lot of it right here because of Toad's flax. You know what? I can just grab this 4 stack. Don't have all the ingredients. I'm slightly short on fur. I'll have to try more. But you at home should probably make a fur cloak. It helps you with survival. It helps you with exploration. And that's all very valuable stuff. I don't think these tails count as a hide for the sake of this recipe. But I could double check that right now. Oh my god, they do count. Oh my god, I do have just enough. Hell yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I had just enough. Here we go. So we can put that right on. Looking dapper. There have been so many villages where I look exactly like this for a very long time. So much like this, it's unreal. Spitting image. Okay, so if we go to fur cloak here, yeah, so this is guildable. And again, if we have good skill and we're using things related to this, you know, we're using gildings of exploration and survival, there's a decent little chance that we'll be able to gild more than just one thing to this. You can see that blue 0 shows us that we can gild more. As long as the number is blue, we can gild more. So I could also be gilding to my rings and stuff. What a fun game. Guys, we're breezing through this episode because it's time to make a plow. Now, I already made a plow over here because it's very, very simple, but I'm going to show you how. You already have your farming stuff, so you're able to do this. You just go to Build, Vehicles and Movables, and you can see in the bottom right is the wooden plow. This is 2 boards, 6 blocks of wood, and 4 brow. So, like, you could make this as soon as you get the farming skill. You could make this incredibly early in the game if you really wanted to. There just wouldn't really be a reason. But we have a reason to now. We have all this farmland. Now, this farmland, I get these feathers off of the farmland. I put them there in the winter when that wasn't a problem. There we go. This is a lot of farmland for a small little one-person base. Let's get a little bit extra screen real estate here. Here we go. This is a decent little chunk of farmland here now, isn't it? I need to plow all this, and you can hand plow if you're crazy, or you can plow with a shovel using the hand plow command. Both are under adventure landscaping, and you hand plow and you can drag a box. And if I did this while I was using a shovel, it'd be a lot more efficient. But we're going to just use a plow. This works a lot better. And plowing, the best way to do it, I guess, you could argue, would be to right-click it, and if you left-click, you start going somewhere, and you push the thing along, and you plow as you go. So I guess the best way to do it would be to click here, and you hold Alt, and then I click the next one, and the next. Oh, no, I can't queue. Oh, I can't queue. Gotta do it manual. Okay, well, I'm gonna be here a while. Plowing looks kind of like this. Oh my god. It took forever. I was chugging water most of that time. Hey, little pro tip, if you're in the middle of a task in Haven, like you're chopping a tree or you're pushing a plow or whatever, then you can hit your drink key, which I have on F2 there, and your task will keep going while you're drinking, as long as you've already started the task. Now, if it's like something like you told your dude to pick a whole bunch of plants, then it's not really going to work. But if it's one continuous long task, then it works really well. So I was able to drink without having to stop, so I could go that whole time and just crisscross the whole thing. You can see it looks really nice. I just spent that whole time watching a 13-year-old Let's Play of Luigi's Mansion that I've seen a million times. You guys remember Far From Subtle? Video game's awesome. Great old show. Hope they come back one day. Okay, there's one more thing to teach you before we get planting wild crops. So these look like 3 empty drying racks. Well, looks can be deceiving. This one is empty. This one is empty. But this one has seeds on it. How did it happen? It's because I hung up my wild windsown weeds, and they turn into seeds, and for some reason there's no graphic for that, so it looks like it's empty. No, I don't know why. Wild windsown weeds give you random domesticated products for, like, farming. Now, if you're playing on a new world that just launched, these wild windsown weeds don't exist yet. They only start appearing and start having the seeds of things that have already been domesticated in the area. So when a new world drops, everybody's just getting all of these wild seeds and everything, like wildflower, wild kale. I have stuff in here. I have string grass, some random hemp. I don't even remember when I got that or how I got that. More wild kale. We have, what are these? These are, I'm sorry, there we go. Wild tubers. So wild things. Let's put away all the not wild stuff for a moment. We'll put it in here. That's full. Okay, never mind. We'll just ignore it. So the domesticated stuff you get out of the wild stuff. As you plant wild crops and it grows and gets better after a few generations of growing, it'll have a random chance for some of them to evolve into several different things. Like a wild tuber could become any kind of tuber. You know, this could be a carrot, but we don't know. We don't know what it's going to evolve into yet. So you want to have a lot of these things so that you can evolve them into all of the different crops. I'm going to open up this thing and I'm going to start planting these. Now, this is very simple. You just right-click it on the ground to plant it, but if you hold shift, it will continue to queue up whatever your next thing in your inventory is of the same crop. So I could very easily plant all those tubers just like that. And I could very easily take, let's take some wild kale and some string grass and stuff. Is there anything else we had in here? Wild kale, wildflower. Okay, we'll take 150 seeds of each. And I'm just going to start planting them in rows. You can organize your crops however you want. At least at the time that I'm recording this, there is no mechanic where like the crops choke each other out or anything like that. You don't need to do crop rotation or anything like that. Cool, that's probably plenty of string grass. And then we'll do a few rows of wild kale. I wish you could just drag a box over to do this, but I don't believe there's any way to do that. Like if I click that, no, that's just to run. Okay. I went to plant the gourd, and the gourd did not plant. That tells me the gourd probably needs to be built on a trellis. I forgot I should teach you how trellises work. Now, I don't know if we have any trellis crops beyond gourds are probably on a trellis, because I'm guessing they turn into, like, cucumbers and stuff. So we can build a trellis. That is under... let me find it. Here it is. Here it is. It's under farming and animals and then trellis. It's 3 wood blocks and a string to make a trellis. So I'm going to have to make a few of these. Maybe, I don't think I really need a ton just for teaching you how this works. So we're just going to grab a few blocks and do this. There we go. We've got a few trellises here. And now we can just plant them like you plant any other crop. You just right-click it on. I always found it a little annoying to hit the trellises, but there we go. Cool. we have a bunch of crops growing now. Now, later we want to make a bee skep so that we can grow these crops a lot faster, and we can get honey, and we can get wax. Wax is going to be very important, but we can't quite get that yet. We can get some of the stuff that we need today, though, and so that's what we're going to be doing next. Obviously, these crops are going to take a while to grow. They're crops. They don't just grow in one day. And so some of these crops might not even be done by the end of this little series here. But again, I don't, just because they're named 7 days doesn't mean it needs to take you 7 days or even me to take 7 days. This is 7 days of guide videos. So there's a few things we want to go out and do. We want to go into the world, and we're going to be hunting for rust root, which you find in forests. It's pretty common once you have your perception and your exploration up a decent amount. I am mine at 40 exploration, and my perception is at 43 with bonuses, but really, you don't need it that high. I think around 2020 or maybe 25-25, you should be seeing them, but the higher you have in these, the more of them you're going to be able to find, so it is a good idea to continue to level those. I've already been collecting a lot of rust root. You can see it looks just like this right here. And I'll show you what they look like on the map in a little bit as I find one. They're pretty common though. And we want to start collecting a lot of it because rust root is going to be how we find where our metal is. So stockpiling it early so that you have a lot ready to go is just a good idea. We also want to look for beehives so that we can make pyres under them. I believe that's under smoke and fire? No, it's not. Let me find this. I probably need beekeeping. Duh, I don't have beekeeping yet. Now, this only costs 500 LP, very, very cheap to get. There we go. That got us the bee skep. You can see here, we don't have the stuff for it yet, because we need straw, and we need to get that from farming, although I think there's some wild straw you can get from some crops. But we need bee larvae. That's the main thing we want to go get. We can now make bough pyres. It is bough, right? I think I put an R in it earlier. Sorry. So what this is this a little thing you can build. It looks like this. It's just a pile of bow. I think it's bow. Sorry. It's like 4 of them, right? Yeah, it's just 4 of them. So you can make this on the fly very, very easily. And what you do is you put it underneath of a wild beehive, you light it, and then 15 minutes later, real life minutes, you will have smoked them out, and you can now raid the beehive safely. So we're going to have to go find a beehive. Oh, here we go, rust root. We'll go pick that. By the way, something I meant to mention before, these milestone trails, this is normally something I wouldn't want to build a somewhat secluded base near, because milestone trails, you know, someone built this with the intention of traveling them. You can right-click them and, you know, you click a button and boom, you're now automatically traveling along that trail. Surely, whoever made this trail probably has the intention of using it frequently. So this means that my base is kind of high traffic because of that. It's right at a crossroads of a bunch of these. But we are so late game in this world that I don't think that really matters. Again, they're not going to find me because I did that. Oh, hey, oyster mushroom. They're not going to find my base because I did that. They're going to find my base because I documented the entire thing. That'll make it easy. There we go. I just got some oyster mushroom. It's just a forest mushroom on trees. It's a decent mushroom you can pick. Ooh, my stamina's bad. Okay. So we're looking for rust root, we're looking for wild beehives, and either than that, man, I'm teaching you how to make glass today, and I already have all the stuff at home for that. So we're just running around until I find a beehive at this point. Alright, so I hunted for ages, but I couldn't find a wild beehive for some reason. I tried putting on sound alerts for it and everything, just couldn't find one after ages. Maybe it has to do with the change of seasons, I don't know, but there's nothing about it on the wiki, because the wiki is really out of date on a lot of really annoyingly basic things. Thankfully, I already had footage on my other character of me smoking out a beehive. So you can see, you just place down the pyre underneath of where the beehive is, you light it on fire with a stick like you light anything else, set a timer for about 15 minutes, and when you come back to it at the end, there's no bees around it anymore, you can just right-click it and you can raid it. And what you're trying to do is get 6 bee larvae. You can get a maximum of 6 off of 1 beehive, but you're probably not getting all 6. Just keep raiding them until you have at least 6. 6. Keep raiding them in general because they have great drops, but once you have at least 6 bee larvae, then you can make a bee skep back at your base once you have straw, of course. All right, guys, we're getting close to the end of the episode. All I have to do left is make a house, make some cabinets for it, and then I show you how to make glass, because there's a glass making system that didn't exist in the game back in the day. But first, a quick little side tutorial. Let's say you have a lot of extra seeds you have nothing to do with, and you're not at the point of the game yet where you're feeding these to the animals. Well, we could go adventure, we can go landscaping, and we can plant grass. You can just generically plant seeds to start grass, and then it can start spreading out from there. I'm going to do this just to beautify the base a little bit, because we have all these little patches of dirt, and they're not really growing anything yet. So I'm going to go ahead and just get the natural grass spread going by getting it a little bit in each section. Did I miss any? I missed this one over here. There we go, and I think that'll spread on its own just fine. Just something to beautify the base a little bit, you know? Okay, let's go ahead and build our house. So if we go to build, buildings and construction, houses and buildings, we're trying to make a log cabin is the most basic one. It's a little small. We can make a timber house with the same ingredients, but more of it, so that's what we're doing. A timber house is 90 wooden blocks, 45 wooden boards, and 30 bough. So really easy to make. You can see it's about this size in the end, so we have just enough room for it here, although I need to move these stockpiles. I put them a little bit too close. Let's move some of these stockpiles just a little bit farther away from the build site. There we go. Sorry, that took a few minutes. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do a timber house, and I want the door facing this way because I think that looks really nice. We just line it up in there so that we're happy with it. I think it goes, yeah, right here. Looks about right. That looks right. Ugh. It's not perfectly lined up with the floor here, but like this is how it's set up. It looks fine. I'm fine with it. Okay. We're going to start building there, and this will take a few minutes to get all of it built, and a lot of energy, but it's fine. Now, before we finish the last bit of building, something worth pointing out. I talked about it in the previous episode, but with buildings like this, the material you use actually changes how things look. You know, kind of like our claim. You can see our claim has a black stone, because I mostly used black stone for the construction of it. In retrospect, I probably should use the quartz. A quartz stone on the black background would look really cool. Anyway, I just used random assortments of wood and bough and stuff for this. So this might look great, or it might look hideous. I have no idea. But we're gonna find out. Oh, that actually looks quite nice. I like how that looks. All right, we're going into our first house. Oh my God. Home sweet home. It's so quiet for me, but not for you. Why is it not quiet for you? Because I'm playing the Haven and Hearth legacy music for when you walk into a house, because it plays in my head every time I walk into a building. I'm telling you, I used to play this game like 11 years ago. I've been playing this forever. I remember legacy Haven and Hearth. Back when it had music tracks that I like to play in my videos a lot because they're very nice. This is the inside of our house. I'll make sure the music's dead by now so you can hear just how quiet it is. No noise at all. Few things are more terrifying as a hermit than sitting in your house alone with the game in another window while you're doing stuff, and then you hear that door noise as someone walks into your house, notices you're there, and then leaves. Ooh, you'll have a heart attack with that one. I've had that happen over many, many years. Now that we have a house, we can build cabinets. Now, cabinets can't really be maintained outside. They fall apart very quickly. But in buildings, and I believe in caves as well, in fact, for sure in caves as well, because caves count as indoors, you can have cabinets. Cabinets are a very large piece of storage. It's under containers, so you can see cupboard is what it calls them. I call them cabinet. It's 8 boards per cabinet, per cupboard. Sorry, I should call it what the game calls it. And they look kind of like this. So we just need to get a little bit of wood here. And we're going to go ahead and build, I don't like how that's blocked. We're going to go ahead and build a cupboard. Now, you can have a lot of these in a house. You're probably going to build multiple houses at some point and fill them with these cupboards because they are amazing storage. The biggest storage we had before were those urns. So I want to show you a side-by-side here. We're going to take this urn and bring it inside. So I can show you the size comparison here of how much you can fit in these things. So an urn here is 15 slots, and it's mostly vertical. Pretty good. A cupboard is 64 slots. Look at that. So naturally, people fill houses with cupboards. You can do so many neat tricks with cupboards. I'm going to show you one right now, in fact. An interesting little building trick to get more room out of your storage houses. I'm assuming your first house you build here is primarily a storage house, because that's very important to you right now, having a lot of organized storage. And later, you can make parchment and paint it so that you can have signs on the front of your cupboard so that you can at a glance see what you put where. Maybe not a big deal if you live alone. You can probably just remember where you put everything. But if you're living in a community, it's going to become a horrible nightmare of storage problems if you don't label things. So I'll be teaching you that either next episode or last episode. But our last cupboard here, we're actually going to build right here, blocking the other one. Oh, let me drop that. There we go. Blocking the other one. I don't need to do this. Obviously, I have a lot more room in the building. But I want to show you something. You can't normally right-click and access this cupboard in the corner. But if a cupboard next to it is already open, then you can open the corner one. That's how that works. That's why if you go in people's ruins, you'll often see cupboards awkwardly shoved into the corner there. There's also an Ender client option to make it so cupboards are smaller, and the label that you put on them are on the top rather than on the front. Can be very useful to look through storage buildings easier that way. But there's all kinds of things we can build in there for sewing and whatnot, but we can worry about that later. You can also put your bed in there if you'd like to. But we only have one last thing to do today. I want to make some glass. Now, I've actually never made glass with the new system before, but I generally know how it works, at least with very basic glass making, and I have things prepared ahead of time. So, first of all, we're going to need to take metalworking, because that gets us a crucible, and a crucible is also used in glassworking. So we take metalworking here for 1,000 LP, pretty cheap. And next episode, by the way, we're probably going to start prospecting for a little bit of metal. We're going to pick up our 15 bricks I made ahead of time and also 5 clay. I want the better quality clay, which is over here. Cool. And we're going to build a crucible. I'm just going to build it over here. They're not very big. What is that under? That is, here we go. It's under furnaces and fireplaces. Can I pack it in a little tighter, actually? Yeah, that feels better. There we go. We could also make stack furnaces, but we're not ready for that yet. That's for another episode. There we go. Look at that beautiful crucible. What quality? 18. Not bad, not bad. Okay. We're going to go back into skills, and now we need to learn glass blowing. Where is it? Here we go, glass blowing, only 750. Now, there's kind of more advanced glass blowing that we can do later that we need a frame for. But for now, we want to process smelt raw glass. Now, what this takes is sand and lye, which we've been making, and you also need to fuel it with coal, which you get from your tar kiln. Regular old wood doesn't burn hot enough to melt glass, so we're going to fuel that up with as much coal as it'll take. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and gather up our sand and our lye. Sand, you just go to any beach and you dig command on the beach. If you shift dig, then you dig a lot faster, or you auto dig in the next spot if it were to run out, but that's probably not a concern with sand. So we're gonna take like 10 sand, and we're gonna go get our lye, which I believe I shoved in some crates over here. Okay, I had to hunt around the base a little bit, but I found all the lye. Let's stack that together. So we have about 1.5 kilograms of lye. We have a whole bunch of sand here. Now we need to light the crucible. You light this exactly how you think you do. You just light it with 2 sticks. There's other ways to light things later, and you can even take a stick and light it off like a fire that's already lit and then walk it over. I think usually what players do is they make a torch out of tar, and they make like a buildable torch in their area here where they're doing all their smelting, and they light their individual sticks off of that to go light things. I believe that's how they usually do that. But we're gonna light the crucible the old-fashioned way here. Come on, don't burn out. Whew, we got it. Okay. So all we do is we right-click the crucible, we have our sand and our lye in our inventory, and we're gonna make molten glass. Back in the day, this would just make regular glass right away, but nope, this makes molten glass. Oh, how cool does that look? That looks very dangerous. Just with our hands like that. Now, unlocking glass unlocks a lot of things that we can make, like wine glass. Ooh, so fancy. Did I finish crafting yet? No, sorry. I clicked on the crafting thing, so it popped up. Oh, nope, sorry, misclicking. I want to make all this. There's so many little things you can make. You can make a prism to study. Glass lets you make a lot of little things, so I really recommend you examine all your menus here to see your new things. Glass jug holds 5 liters of liquid. You should really explore these menus. You really should also glass key. A slave key that can only be used once. That's really fascinating. I'm not even sure why you would use that. Once you get pigments, you can make shiny marbles, by the way, which are... oh, they're good. Shiny marbles are a great item to study, especially in early game. I'll have to go over that in another episode. But we can make glass pane frames to make well-formed glass panes, smooth glass. But we also need a coat of quicksilver on that, which we don't have yet. I'll be teaching you that more advanced stuff another day. But we can also make demijohns. We can make this out of 10 molten glass. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pre-build that bit now, because next episode we're going to be making alcohol. So there we go. That's 10 molten glass right there. Let's get another 10 going here, because we definitely want to have a bunch of raw glass to work with as well. I don't believe everything here is done with molten glass. So we go ahead and, I mean, we can check, right? If I just go ahead and make a wine glass here. Yeah, you can use either raw glass or molten glass for that, it says. But I need a glass blowing rod for that. Yep, we can't make one of those yet. I do believe that's made of metal, so that's something that I'll have to cover in a more specific video later down the line when I make some kind of a glass video, you know, a tutorial on everything glass. Anyway, we have all this molten glass. We want some of this to turn into raw glass. So all you do is you put it into any container, or I think even your inventory is fine. Just put it somewhere to wait for about, I think it's 15 real life minutes, and you'll have yourself some raw glass to work with. So I guess we got about 15 minutes to kill. You know what? While we wait, impromptu tutorial. Let's get painting. Costs 2,000 LP. So we just snatch that. We can see that we can craft a few new things. We can already make parchment. It's just made out of a single hide. But now we can also make dyes, and we can paint sketches and stuff. So these different pigments we can use, like this is blood? Tanning fluid. Okay, sorry, it looked like blood. You already know how to make tanning fluid. You get a tanning tub, you put water, and you put bark in there, and then you could gather that back up in a bucket if you wanted. You can mix that with soil to make brown pigment. You could take black pigment. You could take solid fat and ashes to make black pigment. If you want blue pigment, you could use blueberries and bone glue. If you want yellow pigment, you can use bitter nightshade berries and bone glue. There's all kinds of pigments. There's tons of pigments you can make. And we don't have a whole lot of use for pigments right now, but we do have a little bit of a use for it. We have an empty water skin here. I'm going to take a little bit of... I can't put that in a water skin. Okay, I need a bucket. Hold on, I got to find my bucket. All right, here we go. I got my bucket. Let's fill it with some tanning fluid. There we go. Got a bucket full of tanning fluid. I just dug a little bit of soil. Let's make a brown pigment. Brown pigment. We unlocked more. We can see under curiosities. Under toys, shiny marbles. Now, you can use any kind of glass, whether or not it's molten. We can take a little bit of our clay. We'll use the higher quality clay. Now, I don't know if this is enough pigment. It says 30, and I don't know. It probably needs more pigment, so let's do another one of these. It probably means 0.3 when it says 30, because the game's weird about that. And you make it out of crucible. There we go. We made our first set of shiny marbles. You can see here, 20,000 LP. The study time is 2.5 days, a little bit more than 2.5 days. Now that's real life days, by the way, with a mental weight of 16. I know that seems high and everything, but you're around that point in the game now where shiny marbles are the kind of thing you want to mass produce and keep on your study desk. Especially if you're a group of friends, it'll be easy to keep up the production of having shiny marbles for everyone to study. It's just a really good item, and it's pretty easy to make. You know, tanning fluid is incredibly easy to make with some stuff you just get off trees. You know, some bark, some water, some soil, and boom, there you go. You can make shiny marbles with some sand. You need a little bit of coal from your tar kiln, which is just made of wood that you burn down. Clay, you could dig that in the river while you're gathering the water. It's all really easy stuff to make this. And of course, lye, so you do need some salt water in the process. But we still need to wait longer for this molten glass to become raw glass, just so that we can see the last few things that we can make with it, you know, with everything that we've unlocked. You know what? More things while I'm waiting. More things while I'm waiting. We're going to go to processing materials, and we're going to go ahead and make 1 parchment. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Now we're going to see, do I remember how to sketch something onto parchment? Is it, I right-click it onto it? Yes, I do. Paint decal. Yes. Okay, there's a few cool things I can do here. We're gonna go into the house here. So there's a few things I can do. One thing I can do is if I right-click an item onto a parchment, I can write an account. That will turn the parchment into an account of an item. The purpose of that is so that you can teach a discovery to another person or another one of your characters in case you were to die or make an alternate character. Let's say that you're the metalsmith and you just made a frying pan. You're not the cook, but the village cook could really use that frying pan to make you all kinds of delicious food. But obviously, the cook has not made the discovery of the frying pan because he's not the one who picked it up, he's not the one who made it. What you could do is take the frying pan and you right-click it onto a parchment to write an account of that. Oh, you can also just write a message on it. To write an account of that and then hand that to him. He can read that, or he could leave it in a cupboard for anyone to read. And as soon as they read it, they get to the discovery of whatever that item was. So in this case, a frying pan. Another thing you could do with it, let's say I want to make this a tool cabinet. You can lift these, by the way. Let's say I want this to be a tool cabinet and I want it marked as such. Well, what I could do is take a pretty recognizable tool like a stone axe, and I could paint decal and give that a second. You don't even need anything to draw with, by the way. You don't need pigment. But there you go, decal of stone axe, and I could put that right on it. And it's on the top because that's what I have my settings set to, but you could also have it set so that it shows on the front. And that is how you label your cupboards. It's 1 hide per cupboard, so obviously it's not the most efficient thing to do immediately right at the start of the game or anything. But as you start having way too many hides at some point, this is a good use for them to help keep your storage a lot more organized. I need to start getting more of these built and organizing the house because ideally I want outside to be less of a disgusting mess. All right, well, never mind. The wiki was wrong. I swear. The wiki has so much great information, but it's also just wildly wrong about like 50% of things. It said it would take an hour in-game or 18 minutes in real life for the molten glass to dry and cool. So I waited like 30 minutes and nothing happened, so I started Googling around, and now there's a bunch of people suggesting it actually takes multiple hours. So I decided, I'll just show you next episode. There's no reason why we need to rush that right now. The next episode, as for what we're doing, is a little bit of a mystery. I don't have the last 2 days absolutely set in stone, but I only have another week to record this before this series starts going up and things start getting dangerous around here. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But right now, what I know for sure is I'm gonna be teaching you how to prospect for metal, which is very exciting. We might not find metal right away, but we'll prospect for it. We're gonna be building a chicken coop and a hutch for breeding rabbits. They're the most basic animals that you could breed around the base. We're going to be making cider with that demijohn that I was working on. And we're going to be finally fighting something that fights back and is a little more dangerous out in the overworld. We're going to start fighting foxes. There's probably going to be more that we do than just that, but I'm going to confirm things with my village and try and figure out exactly what we think we could reasonably teach you on the next episode. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope you've been enjoying the series, and I really look forward to recording more for you. Until next time, have a nice day.